On August 7th, 2024, I experienced a transformative event that altered the course of my life and made me question everything I had believed for the past 50 years. Born in a modest village in Morocco, my journey led me to the United States 25 years ago. For the past decade, I have faithfully served as an imam at a small mosque in Texas. My life has been committed to my faith and the service of my community. As a married man with 3 children, my life seemed to be one of tranquility, harmony, and steadfast devotion. Deep inside, I always felt an inexplicable void, as though an essential piece of my being was absent. From an early age, I was immersed in Islam. My father carefully imparted the teachings of the Quran and the cherished customs of our faith. After arriving in the United States, I dedicated myself to sharing my knowledge and convictions with my congregation. I preached sermons and spared no effort to serve the needs of my community, yet as time passed, the passion gradually dissolved into routine. My acts of worship morphed into mechanical habits, stripped of the spiritual intensity I once experienced. And during prayer, my mind oscillated between the responsibilities of my congregation and the demands of my family. I found myself trapped in a life that felt devoid of deeper meaning. Then one morning everything shifted while I was on my way to the mosque. The sky was overcast, hinting at a tranquil day ahead. As I neared a traffic light, a car suddenly hurtled toward me from the right. The final memory I hold is of the horrific collision of metal and a searing pain that enveloped me, plunging my vision into darkness. When I eventually opened my eyes, I struggled to grasp where I was. The darkness that greeted me was unlike any night I had known. It was not the serene calm of dusk, but a stifling void that weighed heavily on my soul. There was no sound, no light, only an overwhelming heaviness, as if I had been utterly severed from God's embrace. Even though this emptiness filled me with terror, I felt an inexplicable draw toward it. Soon enough, a dim red glow began to pulsate in the distance. I sensed an irresistible force pulling me closer. Devoid of a physical body, I nonetheless advanced, each step unperceived yet driven by an unseen power. As I drew nearer, anguished screams began to permeate my awareness, not heard through my ears but resonating deep within my spirit. These cries, heavy with pain, regret and sorrow, stirred a profound unrest inside me. Before long, I found myself at the edge of a vast chasm. Gazing down, I beheld an indescribable sight. A massive pit of fire, its flames endlessly ascending. Thick, sulphurous smoke filled the air, making it nearly unbreathable, while the agonized screams from the inferno grew louder. Within those flames, I witnessed souls writhing in torment, some bound by chains, others suffering at the hands of hideously deformed, tormented creatures. These entities, though bearing a vaguely human semblance, were grotesquely twisted, radiating an eerie, otherworldly malevolence. As I looked closer, I recognized certain faces among the damned. Their features were disturbingly familiar, sending an icy shiver down my spine. One of them was a man I had known in my youth, a neighbor from a Christian family. Though we had never shared deep conversations, his face was now contorted in sheer terror as he turned toward me and emitted a blood-curdling scream. I had long since turned my back on God, neglecting his presence throughout my life. Yet on the far side of the chasm, I noticed the emergence of a dark, shadowy figure. It was a political leader, a man I recognized solely from the news. His features were indistinct, yet his cries struck a familiar chord. I had sacrificed everything in the relentless pursuit of power and wealth. I had shattered lives, and now here I stood. Then, moving further along, another face caught my eye. A world-renowned figure, none other than Muhammad Ali. The very notion of him languishing in the depths of hell sent shockwaves through me. I had clung to a superficial faith, uttering his name without genuine conviction, and that, I realized, was why I was here. As I surveyed the rim of the chasm, more faces emerged. Leaders, scholars, and once revered figures, all ultimately confessing the same bitter truth. They had worn God's name outwardly, yet never truly connected with him. At last, I recognized a formidable figure from the Islamic world, Muammar Gaddafi. His eyes were wide with terror as he lay bound in chains. He had exalted power as his deity. With a cry, he admitted, "I forgot the true God, and now I am condemned to this darkness." These visions shook me to my very core. The souls before me were not solely those who had utterly renounced faith, they were also those who had embraced it only in a shallow, perfunctory manner. The realization filled me with an inescapable dread. From the depths of the abyss, a whisper echoed, "This is a place with no escape. Here there is no hope." Every route was sealed off. In that instant, a profound fear took root within me. My soul felt utterly trapped in the overwhelming darkness. I yearned to flee, yet there was nowhere to go. Standing at the edge of that chasm, I was left with nothing but terror and regret. I soon understood that this realm inflicted punishment not only through physical torment, but also with an unbearable spiritual burden. As I questioned the origin of these afflictions, I sensed an even darker force lurking, an abyss of despair beyond words. But just when I felt completely lost, something shifted. A radiant light sliced through the oppressive gloom, cleaving the void like a blade and loosening the chains that bound my soul. From that luminous glow emerged a figure whose presence was both overwhelming and gentle, his eyes brimming with infinite love and mercy. It was Jesus Christ. Dragged deeper by the darkness and horror of hell, I found myself in a surreal, otherworldly courtroom. Though the space was silent, I could feel the immense weight of judgment pressing down upon me. In a sudden, all-encompassing vision, every moment of my life unfolded before my eyes. I witnessed my prayers, sermons, and acts of worship arrayed alongside the good deeds I had neglected, the responsibilities I had ignored, and the secret thoughts I had hidden away. Deep in my heart, I saw my own selfishness in aiding others, my failure to prioritize my family, and the mechanical routine nature of my devotion. This revelation exposed my connection with God as nothing more than a hollow imitation, formed by habit and the weight of societal expectation rather than true, heartfelt faith. I cried out in despair, even though I had once been an imam, a guide to others, yet the truth could not be denied. My faith was laid bare as an empty shell. In that moment, hideous, grotesque beings appeared, bearing heavy chains that embodied my sins and failures. They draped these chains upon me, and I collapsed under their crushing weight, overwhelmed by guilt and a paralyzing sense of helplessness. At my lowest, when I felt utterly broken, a brilliant light burst through the darkness, enveloping me in warmth, peace, and love. Slowly, the chains began to fall away, and from the very center of that luminous glow stepped Jesus Christ. His eyes, overflowing with limitless love and mercy, reached into the deepest recesses of my soul. "I love you, and I have come to save you," he declared, breaking the chains that had held me captive. For the very first time, I felt the all-encompassing embrace of God's love. In his presence, the suffocating weight of hell lifted, replaced by a liberating sense of freedom and forgiveness. I realized that the sole path to peace was to surrender completely to this love, and in that surrender my soul finally found rest. Just when I believed I was lost amid unending darkness, Jesus drew near. His presence was so formidable that the crushing pressure on my knees eased, and the chains that bound me fell away one by one as he leaned down and tenderly lifted me up. His touch radiated warmth and love, filling a void I had searched for all my life. His gaze pierced straight into my soul, carrying boundless wisdom along with a profound mercy and understanding that defied words. In that moment, every defense and mask I had built crumbled away. I stood before him completely exposed and vulnerable. There was nowhere to hide, and no excuses remained. "Jesus already knew everything about you, Ali," he said in a voice both commanding and gentle. "I know every deed, every neglect, every regret, every fear. And still, I love you. I am here to save you. This is not the end. God is still calling you," he continued, "but it is I who will rescue you." His words reached the very depths of my soul, and suddenly everything I had once believed and taught felt agonizingly empty. My prayers, sermons, and acts of worship now appeared as nothing more than a superficial shell, utterly lacking the deep connection with God I had long neglected. Jesus did more than merely expose this emptiness. He showed me what it truly meant to be united with the divine. Memories of my past surged before my eyes, prayers uttered with kind intentions yet devoid of true depth, acts of worship performed out of mere obligation, and even the pride I once carried in helping others. Every one of these moments was laid bare to me, but Jesus revealed them not to condemn me, but so that I might be set free. In his presence, the crushing weight of hell evaporated. The surrounding darkness melted away, replaced by pure, unadulterated light. As I looked around, I found myself in a realm that radiated the peace of God. This was not a physical space bounded by walls or limits. It was a place where everything was bathed in light, love, and serenity. Once more, Jesus met my gaze. "Ali, you still have a chance to renew your life," he said. "Follow me. True peace and salvation can only be found in an authentic relationship with God." In that moment, something awakened deep within me. The void that had long haunted my soul was suddenly filled with his words. For the first time, I encountered genuine faith, not as a series of empty rituals, but as a direct communion with God's love, forgiveness, and salvation. I came to appreciate the profound worth of the second chance Jesus had bestowed upon me. My spirit, once weighed down by the oppressive darkness and torment of hell, now felt liberated, uplifted, and imbued with an indescribable peace. Yet, along with this newfound serenity, emerged a deep sense of duty. This experience was not meant solely for my own redemption. It was a call to share the love, mercy, and salvation of Christ with everyone around me. The light in Jesus' eyes swept away every remnant of darkness within me, and in that moment of clarity, I knew what I had to do. I resolved to place my faith completely in him and to follow the path he had set before me. It was more than a mere transformation. It was a fresh beginning, a chance to rebuild my life with Christ at its center. I truly understood then that Jesus' love is limitless and that he is the sole pathway to God. When I eventually opened my eyes again, the radiant glow of his presence had yielded to the pale ceiling of a hospital room. Although my body felt heavy, the peace within me was overwhelming. Nurses and doctors gathered around, their expressions a mix of shock and relief. Then I heard my wife's quavering voice. Through tears of joy, she cried, "Ali, you're back!" The doctors explained that I had been clinically dead for 9 minutes, a miracle, they said. While they described it as a medical phenomenon, I knew it was far more profound. It was my salvation, my spiritual rebirth, a new beginning. I realized that not only had I been physically revived, but I had also been granted a new spiritual life, one firmly anchored in the truth of Jesus Christ. In the days that followed, as I lay in my hospital bed, I reflected deeply on all that had transpired, the darkness of hell, the torment, the crushing chains of my past, and then the rescuing, radiant light of Jesus. It wasn't solely my life that had been salvaged. My soul had been rescued and led into the true love and mercy of God. This revelation stirred something within me that could not be ignored. For much of my life, I had been so absorbed in fulfilling the outward obligations of religion that I had neglected the deeper, vital essence, a genuine personal relationship with God. The echo of Jesus' words, "I love you and have come to save you," reverberated within me. That divine love was not intended just for my own sake. It ignited in me an undeniable duty to share it with others. Upon my discharge from the hospital, I realized that I could never return to the life I once knew. My first act was to devote my attention to my family. I began to see my wife and children not as mere responsibilities, but as treasured gifts from God. I approached them with a tenderness and compassion I had long neglected. I started recounting the story of Jesus' love to my children in simple, heartfelt ways. At first, my wife was taken aback, even hesitant, but gradually the peace and love radiating from me began to soften her heart as well. The next step proved even more daunting, returning to my congregation. For years, as an Imam, I had preached Islam and guided others in living faithfully according to its teachings. Yet my profound experience had shattered the very foundation of everything I had once believed. How could I reconcile the truths I now embraced with the doctrines I had long upheld? How could I possibly explain to my community that my encounter with Jesus had utterly transformed my understanding of God and faith? At first, I chose silence. I continued to lead prayers and deliver sermons, yet every word felt hollow, for I knew I was no longer the man I once was. Driven by an insatiable thirst for truth, I immersed myself in the teachings of Jesus Christ, devouring the Bible and exploring Christianity with a fervor I had never experienced before. The more I read, the clearer everything became. The Gospels revealed a love so profound, a forgiveness so complete, and a grace so unmerited that I recognized it as the ultimate truth. I came to see that my former religious practices, though well-intentioned, had been missing the crucial element of a personal relationship with God. They had been governed by ritual and obligation, rather than by a heartfelt connection with the divine. I came to understand that true faith was rooted in love, connection, and surrender. Jesus revealed to me what it truly meant to know God, and I could no longer ignore that truth. After months of heartfelt prayer and diligent study, I made the agonizing decision to step down as an imam. Remaining in that role would have meant betraying the profound revelation I had received. I shared my decision with my wife, who had witnessed my transformation firsthand. Though she was initially taken aback, she supported me, recognizing that this choice emerged from the very depths of my heart. Since leaving my position as an imam, my life has been wholly centered on Christ. Every morning I now pray not out of obligation, but with a deep sense of love and gratitude for the mercy and grace that have been bestowed upon me. The heavy burden of my past mistakes no longer weighs me down, for I know that Jesus has lifted that weight from my shoulders. I now experience a freedom and peace beyond anything I had ever imagined. My journey has become one of repentance, transformation, and the sharing of Christ's boundless love with others. I dedicate my days to serving those in need, spreading the message of salvation found in Jesus. My worship is no longer a mere ritual. It has become a genuine outpouring of my love for God. I have come to realize that God's love transcends all boundaries and that no matter how lost one may feel, Jesus is always there to rescue them. My mission is to share this transformative love with as many people as possible and to live each day as a testament to the grace and mercy that saved me. This is not merely a transformation. It is a daily renewal, a fresh beginning, and a calling that I will follow for the rest of my life.